Welcome back to the What the Falk podcast, where we sit at the top of the league. It has been a tough weekend in some ways, but it's ended fantastically well. As Sunderland, I was going to say destroyed Burnley. We didn't destroy Burnley. We beat Burnley 1-0, but I've had a few whiskies, so you let me off. We're going to talk about it. We're really excited to talk about it. It's great when you get to do a podcast to talk about being top of the league and winning 3 games in a row and not conceding any goals. To join me is Dave Lawrence. Dave, you had last week off, mate. You've chosen a really good week to come back. How are you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, not bad. Exactly the same as last week, isn't it? Still haven't conceded a goal. Still in the automatic promotion places. Absolutely brilliant. Don't know what we were worried about last season for, or pre-season, or anything for that matter.
Everything's fantastic. Pia, you got some compliments today in bar 73. Apparently you've been a good addition. How are you doing? Are you all right?
I'm very canny. Well, how couldn't I be anything other than canny? Thank you very much to those people in bar 73. I'm keeping the countdown going. What is it now? 91 points to go, 93 goals. And there we go. Piss the league with 100 points and 100 goals. The head loss continues.
He wasn't meant to, but Ross has joined. With a takeaway, Rossi, all right?
Good time in that one. I couldn't have timed it better. Yeah, delighted. Just had another really good day following the lads, and a bit giddy, if I'm honest, because today I was kind of expecting a tough game, but if we're being honest, we're about 3-4 players short if we're including the strike we've always signed. And to me, we beat the team who are the team to beat.
I'll tell you what, it's absolutely made my day that you've joined absolutely smashed.
I've got a big dirty kebab and chips, like, it's one of them days, isn't it?
Treat yourself, push the board out, eh?
I know, I'm on my oldest.
I'm not going to lie, I was praying there was going to be no editing, and I feel like that's already buggered after the best part of 5 minutes. But Dave, I'll go to you first before things go south.
It's always Dave, by the way. Dave makes the editing.
It is. People think it's Brad, and it's not. It's Dave. Dave, look, hey, we beat Burnley 1-0. We played really well. There's tons of things to be positive about. But let's go straight off the bat and say, who was the player you want to pick out today? Because I just think there's no point in me asking how you feel. We're obviously giddy. We're happy. We're top of the league. There's nothing to complain about. The win was good. Brilliant. Just talk to me about Patrick Roberts, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter came out with a great stat, didn't he? That apparently made the most tackles today, and I think that's it. We all know how good he is on the ball. My old man was absolutely shocked the fact he's still only 27, so we've still got his peak years to come. We all know how highly he's been thought of in other parts of football throughout the years. I mean, you don't get the Man City, you don't get the Celtic if you're not well thought of. And geez, I love him as a player, and the fact that he seems to have this. Reggie's quite a calm and composed bloke, isn't he? And I really appreciate that, and I like that. But
no, he's just miserable, Dave. I love him. He's great. It's fine. Reg Lebris, my lord, Reg Lebris. But the point of the matter is, he's just French.
I tell you what, I get the feeling that I wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of one of his head losses, because I definitely think he's got one. But yeah, he's bought into the system, and I mean, it's not Sunderland related, but I was listening to a James Maddison interview at Spurs earlier, and he just said, we've got to believe in what Big Ange is telling us. His way of playing is fantastic, and I think that's it. And I've said it for a couple of weeks now. We can all have our gripes about certain topics and certain off-the-field things and stuff like that. However, I do believe the Sunderland board put their last roll of the dice in Lebris. And at the minute, it's coming up smelling roses. I'm a big fan of it. There was definitely signs of improvement in pre-season. He's identified players which even us as staunch fans didn't necessarily think would come to the forefront, and they have. People like Mayenda. he's getting a different level out of Roberts from what we've seen in the first couple of games, whether that's a full pre-season or whatever. But long may it continue. He's obviously got to be fair, I wish he was Spanish because I know that the Spanish word for balls is cojones. So I don't know what the French is. But he's obviously got a set to start Chris Rigg a couple of games in a row. It's massive. And I think on a different day, we probably could have put Burnley to the sword quite easily, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think it was closer than it needed to be. I actually genuinely felt, which is very odd, that we were comfortable throughout. But you're right to pick up Patrick Roberts. 100%. I thought he was brilliant. But Peter, it's the second week in a row where I've said, it doesn't matter who you pick, you can pick whoever you want. Who are you picking out? I don't think I disagree with any of them.
Dave, I'm just to let you know, I think des coules is balls in French. So there you go.
That
we're laughing and learning.
Brilliant, by the way. Des coules.
We're laughing and learning.
This is why we got you on the podcast. This is why we got on the podcast. You can bring that linguistic, different type of the podcast, a bit of brains. You know what I mean? You're the brains of the podcast now.
Did you just say something
absolutely
about Ross, did you? Linguistics? Is that what you said?
Linguistics, yes.
Yeah, I like that. It's the little bow ties, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so who am I going to pick? I'm going route one. I'm going absolutely route one because I thought he was smashing today. Is Romain Mundle. What a lot of pressure that was on that lad. Obviously with Jack Clarke going, I think we all, the grumbles, should he have gone for how much? Did he go for enough? Should he have gone? Where's he gone? Ipswich? All of that out of the way. There was a lot of pressure on Romain Mundle today to start that match, and he took the chance, didn't he? And we were saying in the group chat earlier on, so much of life and so much of going on and taking things further is when you're given an opportunity, grabbing it with both hands and doing something with it. And from the first minute of that match today, he was flying down that left wing. He wanted the ball. He looked energetic. When he had the ball, he looked dangerous. I think it was him that pinged the ball across to Chris Rigg in the first 10, 15 minutes or so, something like that. And, you forget the lad's only, 2 years old or whatever he is. But, Chris Rigg, the player he is, you would have expected him, you would have backed him to score that. If he'd scored that, I think it could have been 4 or 5. But the Romain Mundle was absolutely class today. He took his goal so well. I mean, let's say it was a pass from Patrick Roberts to set it up. I mean, that's being generous. But anyway, he got the ball where he got the ball to come inside with, again, and how often did we say this about Jack Clarke? There was an awful lot to do when he received the ball where he received it, and he did it effortlessly. I'm starting to get like Ross here. He did that. I'll take that one again. He did that effortlessly, and slotted it home. Fantastic finish, wonderful performance. Glad he got to come off and get a bit of an applause as well. He did look like he needed changing at the time. He needed changing. Great stuff. Let it continue and give him more. Hopefully, he'll just keep on going from there, and we won't miss. I mean, we obviously will miss Jack Clarke. Jack Clarke's been a wonderful player for Sunderland for so many years. I thought he deserves a little mention from the way in which he's gone about saying his goodbyes today. I thought that was a class act as well. But my player that I'm picking out, Romain Mundle. The new era begins. The king is dead. Long live the king.
Yeah, I thought Mundle was excellent today. Ross, again, honestly, I don't think you can really pick. Again, it's another week where everyone's a 6 and a 7, but take your pick. We've got Roberts, we've picked Mundle. Who stood out for you?
Maybe a bit more left field, but I thought Agilisi was brilliant today.
He was.
He won every battle, and I think him and Sirkin linked up really well on the left. And to me, today, I know at least he's played against Cardiff and against Sheffield Wednesday, but today it felt to me that he was physically ready. He looked more like when Agi's at his best, you know what I mean? When he's imposing himself on his left foot, bringing the ball out. To me, that was the best of him. And it was great to see because obviously you see Ballard on the bench. It's competition now. Nobody's safe in that back line, which is the way you want it because you've got a long, as Labrisa said, it's a long season with a lot of players needed. He's even said himself he needs about 20 odd players to be ready to play every game. And it was a challenge today because I thought what was really different about the games that we've played so far is I felt the athleticism. Oh, I can't even speak. You know what I mean? Basically, in a nutshell, Burnley were fast as fuck on the counter, right? And they were really, really quick. And him and O'Nien had to deal with a lot of balls over the top, with a lot of pace in behind, and they dealt with it really well. And I thought the distribution out from the back was really good. And I just think having that left, I know, obviously, I love Dan Ballard. O'Nien's been faultless at the minute. But at the moment, we're really comfortable about in the fact we've conceded no goals in 3 games. He's a massive part of that. And today, I just felt it was his most complete performance as a centre-back in a 4 in a Sunderland shirt.
I also thought, like, just to make sure that people don't think we're missing anyone out, I think Trey Hume could have been picked out today. I feel like O'Nien could have been picked out today. Chris Rake 100% could have been picked out because that boy is like, you're not 17. You're a 27-year-old professional footballer in the body of a 17-year-old, because what you're pulling out of the bag at that age and that level of experience is just probably above what you should be doing, if I'm completely honest. And it worries me in some ways, but at the same time, it delights me because he's wearing a red and white shirt. But Job was brilliant again. I thought Job was excellent. I thought Mayenda looked more confident. Look, he didn't really have many chances today, but he had a goal. Massive fan of Wilson Isidore, absolutely going nuts with all the players at the end of the game, like shaking their hands and properly going for it. But there's one thing I wanted to touch on today, Dave. Look, we're going to come on to Jack Clarke because I think we probably need to, and I would like to, because we've spoke a lot about Jack Clarke over the 3 seasons. We've sort of done this, 4 seasons we're into now, and there's a lot of stuff to discuss about Jack Clarke that is very positive. But today, I had a feeling going into the stadium, and I said, we'll win the day. And it wasn't like blind optimism. It came from, I think, Sunderland, and this group of players particularly, when something goes a little bit against us, one thing we've always seemingly been able to do, Dave, is respond really well. And there was honestly a feeling about me today, and people say, oh, you can, it's fine for you to say that now, but I genuinely had a feeling would play well today and Mundle would have a really good game. There was just something where it was like, you know what, these players see it as an opportunity, and I think the players, they obviously get on really well with Jack Clarke. He came in today and I think he said bye to the players before he left and stuff like that, and it's all very sad, but the players showed a real togetherness today, including a brand new signing who joined literally yesterday. There's a long way to go in this season, Dave. I don't want to get sort of carried away, but it's great to see that togetherness, Dave, when it will be a little bit. We've seen Sunderland sides before that don't have that togetherness, haven't we? And it's brilliant to see.
Absolutely. And I think we've, as a podcast, probably pointed it out since the Alex Neil era. And I think that's when it started. And there is still a core group of those guys kicking about. Jack Clarke was one of them, to be fair. I think, dare I say it, Brad's going to absolutely curse me. Dare I say it, like, there's certain individuals in the hierarchy who have to take a little bit of credit for getting them through the door. But also, I think it's a massive, massive, massive nod towards us as a fan base. I think it's really, really easy to buy into what we're about when things go well, but not necessarily when things go well. When things go wrong, we just really want the basics to be right. The result, we said, there's been times that we've, as a podcast, had discussions over a 2-1 defeat, a 3-1 defeat, and gone, do you want to know something? It's not the end of the world. And the reason for that was we've had a go. We've tried to win the game. It hasn't gone right on the day. And I think that's football in general. And the one thing that you will get with Sunderland fans is a level of football intelligence. We know what we're talking about. And that's not just me. That's not just you. That's not the guy.
I don't. Like, but that's fine.
I've not the first clue. I'm just happy to be out talking to people.
in the bunker.
But ultimately, we all live and breathe it, and I think little bits of famous Netflix documentaries and seeing clips of players, Patrick Robertson and Jack Clarke, when they went off and did that, did a bit of charity day and cooked the sausage, bacon, and eggs or whatever they were cooking. Bless them. You can tell that they understand what it means, and that is what it means to us. It's it's life and death, and people might not understand that. But I think once you get here, and then, like you say, Wilson's come in from Russia, the middle of nowhere, and he's bought into it already. And I tell you what, I saw the little clip of the noise after the game. Jesus, it's spine tingling. There's not a place on earth that I'd rather watch football than the stadium like when everyone's in a positive forward momentum.
Do you know what it is as well, though? I want to touch on that before I forget. Like, there's a lot of comments like pre-season when I was asking for questions about the podcast for the preview show, and a lot of people were like, "What can we do to improve the atmosphere?" Can I be honest? The atmosphere the past 2 weeks have been absolutely fucking brilliant. Like, they've got behind the lads from the first minute. Mundle's, like, when Mundle's name got read out today, there was a big roar up, like, "Come on, kid, like, show us what you got. Let's do it. Like, this is me and you now. This is me, you and us." And I just think sometimes we're quite easy to be like, "Oh, atmosphere's shit." Back half of last season was crap, and we had nothing really to sing about or shout about. And I know that's not always what support's about. I know it's not about the players being good on the pitch, but there's a real marriage at the moment that has no right to have come from where it's come from. There's a lot of things that you could have felt quite negative about, but the last two games, it's been class. Like, I'm trying to get a bit of a six pack, Dave, right? And I'm not doing very well because Sunderland are winning. Because I've been knocking back the whiskies.
If there's a prime example within our group of reiterating what you've just said, me and you are a very similar age, like a couple of months between the two of us, and we grew up, and maybe even Peter a little bit before us, to be fair, but we grew up in an era where there wasn't necessarily too much to cheer other than the fact that they had heart, they played for the shirt, and they wanted to be here, because the quality of football is nowhere near the level that we now play, and hasn't been for a couple of years. For as much as it went wrong last year and there were silly decisions made and stuff, and I stick by that, the level that we grew up with, if you look back at some of them players, they're cult heroes, but it's like a cult movie, isn't it? Like, everyone loves a cult movie because it's shite. It's not because it's great. It's not because it's fantastic and the best viewing possible. It's because it's a bit like a car crash. You can't quite avert your eyes from it. And like I say, when you're number one and your reserve keeper is like Tony Norman and Alec Chamberlain, I mean, it's nothing on the guys that grew up with the likes of Sorensen and Poom and Thomas Myra, bless them. They were class players.
I hate Alec Chamberlain, I'm not going to lie. As a kid, even I didn't like him. So
he was too southern for me, I'm not going to lie. There's a bit more Eden for you.
Thank you very much. But it does feel like, it does feel like there's a real togetherness with the squad. And I think there's a real level of quality there as well. We haven't even touched on Dennis Serkin. Do we need to touch on Dennis Serkin? He's handsome. He's good.
What are they feeding him? Because, I mean, the muscle that the lad has put on, the heft that he's put on, the touch on a football today was just sublime going forward. I don't think he actually had, I'm probably going to miss something, but I don't think he had that much to do defensively coming back. It wasn't really down their right-hand side that they were causing too many problems, but his link-up play with Mundle was phenomenal. No, I'm not going to let you go without commenting on Dennis Serkin because I'm massively in love with Dennis Serkin. I think he's one of the finest players that I've seen put on a shirt like that. On the atmosphere, though, I'm jumping all over stuff. But on the atmosphere, I'm here in Berlin watching the game on the TV, and last year there was a lot of times where I was thinking, I'm really glad I'm sat on my nice couch and I've got a cup of tea and everything's comfortable and I've got the dog to pet. And then I'm watching it today thinking, I really wish I was there. Start Googling flight, like how financially crippling is it to fly every other Saturday for a match? I mean, I can tell you very financially crippling and it's not happening. But, you start watching the way it looks, the way it sounds, it looks good. I wish I was there.
It was like bouncing on the train. It was bouncing on the train, getting on the metro to the train. It was bouncing after the match, bouncing before the match. People were just up for it. But Ross, I'll throw this one to you. With 3 games into the season, so I think that means there's 40 games left. Look, I've had a few, but I think 40. Try and do the maths. Yeah, 40. Now it's 1 year. And there's going to be times during the season where we're going to come on this podcast and we're going to go, that wasn't great. That's a tough one to take. We've been beaten the last minute. We've drew a game we should have won X, Y, and Z. But we talked at the start of the season about what would be a successful season, which is a really difficult question to ask. We've lost Jack Clarke, which we're going to go on to, but we've won the first 3 games. We haven't conceded a goal. We've beaten a team that's probably the favourites to go up, give or take, with Leeds. We've beaten a team that people thought were going to get in the playoffs. We haven't beat them. We annihilated them. And we had a very comfortable victory at Cardiff. It's been the dream start, if we're completely honest with you, outside of the fact we've arguably lost one of our best players, which, again, we'll come on to. I don't know whether you can see this with 3 games in, but does what we've done in the first 3 games indicate what we can do this season? Do we up our estimations of what we can do, or do we just take game by game? Ross?
I think, again, it's a hard one. I think what we can take from it is that, to me, the early indications are we've got a very competent, tactically astute head coach. As a team, I don't think I've seen us look this organised, and especially from the press, it's the best we've ever pressed as a football team in the modern era. You can't disagree with that. Whether the results have came across good performances, so it's not even like we fluked a result either. So performances are really good. What I liked about today was the fact that Lebris was quite annoyed we didn't score more, which was nice. He didn't just butter over it to go, oh, well, it was a great win against great teams. Like, no, we should have won by more. Expectation-wise, again, it is a small sample, but to me, it also shows that the quality we've got in the starting 11 is decent, if not really good for this level. But the fact is, I think every team we've played's made 5 subs, apart from us, every game, which maybe tells you a story about how Lebris feels about his squad. And I'm starting to feel by every game that goes by that Preston game was Lebris maybe sending a message to the board to say, look, this is what we've got. And back up, there's a few good players who stood out today. Mundle stood out today. Riggs stood out today. And Trent stood out today. And then with 3 who made the team today. No one else made the team. Some didn't even make the bench, which is very worthwhile mentioning. If he's backed with another 3 or 4 players, I'd say top 6 could be a minimum based on what we're seeing so far. But at the same time, they are very young lads who will peak at a time and get tired. The likes of Rig. Job showed last year, if you play too much, you'll kill him. We've already got a suspension with Neil, which is probably worth mentioning. It was a daft 2 yellows, I think, if we're being honest, which the second one we didn't need to make. But again, it's daft. But again, that's another one where we now have to play Brown CDM, which he hasn't played for us yet. So it's another one where you look at the window and go, If there's an option out there, do you get one in? So at the moment, I think we take game by game. We've got to back him now. The money's not an excuse. We've got money in. We've got to get him at least 3 or 4 players in the positions we need. If we've got a squad where you can say you've got at least 2 players for every position who are not even just like squad players, but players who are genuinely going to come off the bench and make an impact with the high press we do, because players do get tired with the press when we are applying to teams, then I think, yeah, let's get our expectations up to at least playoffs minimum. Not just top 6 might be the aim, but also with a whiff of caution as one, he might not get the players he wants or needs, and 2, we are still a very young squad who will have peaks and troughs.
Very educated for a man that's obviously had too much kebab and too much alcohol. Dave, I do want to touch on Reggie Slibreese, and I do want to remind people, not that I want to bring any part of it down because I'm absolutely buzzing, but with 3 games in, like, it's such a long season. There's going to be hard days. And if we're going to have a successful season, even and win this league, there's going to be hard days. Like, that's just football. But we talked about, I think prior to the Cardiff game on the preview podcast, that the Marseille game had sort of give us this sort of glimpse into what we were going to get with Reggie Slibreese, and that we hoped that that was going to continue. 3 games in, the signs are really, really good. How much praise does Reggie Slibreese deserve for these first 3 games? Considering he didn't come in, Dave, let's be honest, to like a fully optimistic fan base that felt like everything was going to be fantastic. It wasn't. There was a lot of people that were like, and understandably so. I was probably one of them. But he's turned this round so much. And how much credit does he deserve for that?
Massively. And I think that's down to his attention to detail and how articulate he is. I've got all the time in the world when you have beat a team quite comprehensively, or as much as you can be comprehensive with a 1-0 scoreline.
Should have won by more, and no one could have argued about it.
Yeah. And you say, yeah, okay, we've done well. We've played well. However, we could have done better. Yeah, I've got time for that. Because these guys they're being paid decent money. They're not like the players are. They are accountable, and they should be held accountable. And they have, I mean, inverted commas, let themselves down in certain aspects of the game today, i.e., not scoring 3 or 4 goals.
Not by me, for the record, Reggie Slibreese's words. This is not the words of Dave, nor is it the words of What the Falk podcast. It's the words of Reggie Slibreese. He feels like they should have done better. For what it's worth, if there's any Sunderland players listening, I'm super happy with that performance. Continue to do it. I thought it was 100% perfect.
And that's fine, isn't it? Because behind closed doors, he can tell them, well done, great result against a great team. But to us lot, it's like, I'm still demanding more. I still want more. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. I think he deserves massive credit. He's cool as a cucumber. I mean, I don't want to give you more editing, but he's just French, isn't he? He's just absolutely French.
I'm not editing that. He is just chill as hell. Like, he's... there was points when he just was like, arms folded, like chill sound. Like, he looks like a man who hasn't just had his best player sold. Like, and I think that's a huge compliment. And look, I think he's been great. I think the way we've played has been fantastic, but it would be remiss of me to do this podcast and not discuss Jack Clarke. And I don't want to chat about Jack Clarke in terms of him leaving, Pete, right? I don't want to, like, he's gone. We can discuss the money. I've discussed the money on Twitter. We've discussed it. It is what it is. He's gone. But I think it would be worth, because of how good he's been, to have a section on, how much I think we've appreciated Jack Clarke. I don't want to have any negatives here. We've won. We've showed that Mundle can step up in that place, and I hope he continues. But it would be wrong of us just to be like, there's a few people like, oh, who needs Jack Clarke? You know what? I've loved Jack Clarke and Pete. I think his words were really classy and his Instagram. And I think he's been a great player for us. And I think if there's one bit of credit we can give the hierarchy, which we have criticised, and rightly so, is that we're now getting sad when some players are leaving because the players that they brought in we fell in love with. And Jack Clarke's right at the top of that list, isn't he, Pete?
The lad deserves every credit to himself because he came in after an unsuccessful big move to Spurs. He was written off really by them. And he made himself the best player, while he was at Sunderland in the development. And certainly the words, what he's written today, a lot of that has come down to the development he's had at the Academy of Light and playing throughout the various incarnations of Sunderland while he's been there. He's being developed into by far and away the best player in the Championship for me. Well worthy of a move to a Premier League team. Not to disappoint our friends in Suffolk too much, but I'm wondering why on earth he would go to Ipswich. I mean, dear me. But anyway, away from that, no, that message he put on Instagram, I've got it open in front of us at the moment, and just not to read it out, and everybody can go and look at it. But the way he speaks about representing the club and the people who live and breathe Sunderland AFC, I couldn't have asked or dreamt for a better place to play football. The kid got it. That was the thing. And, you saw it from when he scored goals. You saw it from the way he put himself on the line, because there was times he was getting mugged by 3 to 4 defenders and he was turning them inside out. It's been a privilege to watch Jack Clarke play in a red and white shirt. I'm absolutely over the moon that he was a Sunderland player, and he'll always have a soft spot, a warm, fuzzy place in my heart. The reality for me, though, is as soon as they stop being Sunderland players, they're done for me. Until it's all over, until their career is all over and they start appearing on podcasts and sitting talking about how much of a great time they had. So, I hope he has a successful career with Ipswich within reason. And, but so long and thanks for all the fish. The quote a bit of Hitchhiker's Guide there. He's been great. I can't fault the lad for the way he conducted himself. Right up until the last. I was surprised to see that he was at the stadium today. I think Regis Lebris deserves a bit of credit for that as well. I think it shows a lot of the character that exists within the club at the moment, because you wouldn't have to look too far to find a manager, a head coach that would go, absolutely not, you're not coming in here today, you're gone, you're no longer my player. I don't, I was watching a thing with Aidan McGeady talking about when Ian Emery was his manager at Spartak, and he just got a message from him one day when he knew he was away, and it just said, fuck off. He looked at the message like, wow, okay. But, so the fact that he's able to come in, I think it shows a lot from Lebris' side that he's confident in his own abilities and the way he has the team set up. I think it shows a class act from that side. Also from Jack Clarke to come in and say goodbye to everybody, from his teammates to the tea lady. Can't fault the lads. As I said, best of luck within reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I think... Look, I'm delighted for Romain Mundle. I'm delighted for Sunderland. I'm delighted for the fan base today. I'm delighted for myself. Everything about today was absolutely excellent. And we have survived Kevin Phillips leaving. We've survived Niall Quinn retiring. We've survived.
Oh God, I haven't survived. I'm still not over Niall. I'm still not over it.
He's not retired in my head. But there's so much stuff, like there's so many big players that have came through, but the biggest compliment I can give to Jack Clarke is that he belongs in that sort of realm of players that I really genuinely want to do well, again, within reason, as long as there's not any detriment to Sunderland, because then, once he plays against us, I want to try him to put him in the bollard. But like at the same time, he's been one of my favourite players, and if there's ever a compliment I could give to the board or the Speakman, which I don't always do because my opinion is X, Y, and Z, everyone's heard it, is that he's brought in players that I'm now sad that leave the club. I was so sad Ross Stewart left. It's probably worked out for us in some ways, that one, because of his injury record. I'm so sad Jack Clarke's left. But, good luck to him. Again, within reason. But he's been one of my favourite players to wear a red and white shirt. I mean, Ross, we've got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything you can add to that with Jack Clarke? Because when I think we've done this for 4 years, like he's been a lot of this podcast, and look, this podcast is about Sunderland going top of the league and players that are at the club. But I would be wrong, and it would be remiss of me if not to just have a bit of a chat about how good he's been. And you know what Pete said before, the lad's got it, and that's the minimum we ask, I think.
The big thing for me is, I think it was clear from the third or fourth game last season he was the star man now. And he never once hid from that fact. Even when in January he had a lot of interest, he never once down tools. The summer when it was clear, to be fair, I was surprised we got 2 championship games out of him. I think that was a shock to us all. Again, 100% never down tools, and to our knowledge, never once stopped training, never once refused to play. Was always going to be, as long as a deal wasn't made, wearing a red and white shirt. Obviously, you have the comments saying you want to play Premier League football, but I'd like to hope every one of our players wants to play Premier League football in a weird way. Because if not, what the fuck they're doing here? Because that's our aim, you know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. But yeah, to be fair, when he first joined in League One, I thought he was a bit shit at first, if I'm being honest. But again, that is le model. You develop players, they become heroes, and then they leave. Unfortunately, that is how it works. I wish the lad well. I think we did a lot for him, and he did a lot for us. It's been a perfect little partnership. And for the sell-on fee, I hope he's absolutely amazing. But Ipswich go down by 1 goal, and he gets sold for a lot of money, and we get their sell-on fee. Le model.
Is that French for balls?
Yeah. Should we leave it there?
Vive le model.
But I honestly don't think, when it comes to it, there's much more we can add to it. And ultimately, I think, like Pete says, Jack Clarke has gone, and we move on. We thank him. We love him. Hope he does well within reason, and then we move forward. But we'll go into a couple of listener questions, because they're good when you win. And to be honest, I quite like them. The first one is, when's it out? Well, now, if you're listening to it, which is a probably obvious day. But someone has asked, well, there's a few to be honest here, but we've touched on Roberts, okay. So I'll not go with that one. All right, Ross, I'll throw this one to you. I'm not 100% sure that I would agree with it, but we'll go for it. Do you think Ballard gets into the team with the way our defence is playing at the moment?
Depending on the opposition. If we're going to come up against a team that's going to be a constant aerial bombardment, probably. So I do worry about Portsmouth, because I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched Portsmouth since the League One days, because I was quite happily not giving a fuck about them for a long time.
Completely forgot they existed, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but again, it's a small pitch. I always remember them being very physical back in the day. It might have changed since they've actually had some success. I keep going back to it, and I've said this a few times already on a few pods, but it's not about like who plays now. It's about the squad and who we're up against at the time. Like, how good was it today that we could call on Ballard when they went direct? Like, it's so good. Like, even Togetherness, like, he came on, he did really well when he came on, and I felt a bit sorry for Pavetta because he was about to come on before Neil had a bit of a head loss. But to have them names on the bench,
his chance started coming out as well, by the way.
Oh, bless him!
His chance started coming out, and everyone's like, "Oh, here he comes! It's coming out!" And now, oh, Daniel,
he's back on the bench.
Daniel,
but yeah, I bet he's fuming with Daniel a lot more than I was at the time, even though I was quite frustrated. But we'll get back on to what I was saying. It's one of them where it's the kind of headache you need and want if you're going to be successful. I think for too long, as a fan base, me included, maybe last year was like, who plays there? Who plays what? Who's going to start now? We're going to have different teams for 46 games of the season. Let's just enjoy at least being fit in 09 and being great form as it is. if anything of that changes or come up against a team where we need Ballard's physical presence, because let's be honest, on his days, one of the best defenders in the league, then we put him in. It's one of them. There's no rush to get him back in, but if he's needed, he comes straight back in.
Yeah, I'd largely agree with that. I think if you told me you would have won 3 games without conceding a goal and Dan Ballard's playing in the next game with a question, then to be honest, I would have took that. Like, it would have been absolutely fine. I like this question. I think I'll take it. I think it was, when will the doubters start trusting the club's leadership team? Clearly, they don't get everything right, but Christ, we're in such a better place since they've been here. I think the second part of it's really interesting, that they don't get everything right. So therefore, there's areas for criticism then. And I don't want to be negative in any way, shape, or form, but if they don't get everything right, that's instantly saying that there's an ability to kind of question some things that they have done. And you look, we're top of the league. No one wants to hear it. There's certain things you can question. There's certain things you can praise. And we're probably all guilty on both ways of being too critical, being too full of praise. And there's a kind of lovely marriage in between. Truth of the matter is, whether they land on their feet by Mundle working out perfectly and, say, Jack Clarke doesn't work out, or works out like Ross Stewart, where he's injured for most of the season, it looks like a great move, or whether every signing they make's been terrible. They're going to make mistakes. They've made mistakes, and we're in a better position than we were when they took over. But we couldn't go much further backwards. So it had to veneer further forwards. It's where we can go. I don't want to be looking backwards. I don't want to be like, oh, well, we're better than we were in League One. Because of course we should be. Of course we should be. Yes, it took some really hard work to get us out of it. And yes, they deserve praise for that, which I'd like to think we've done it. But we can go further with it if they get these little things right, which they'll still get wrong. They're always going to get wrong. Everyone gets things wrong. We get things wrong doing a bloody podcast. But I do feel like it's not about who do you praise, who do you fall in love with, who do you go, oh my God, we're so much better than we were when we were getting beat off Cheltenham. Well, we should have been better than that. They're doing very, very well in some aspects. They're falling behind in others. The transfer window, the money they've got in for Jack Clarke, it's an opportunity in some ways that they need to get some things which, look, we're not going to win every game this season. So there's going to be moments when things haven't worked. There's going to be times when we say we need someone other than the Mayender up front. There's going to be some signings that work this season. There's going to be some signings that don't. No one's 100% bad. No one's 100% good. You've got to kind of hope it's more 60, 70% good than it is 60% not good, if you prefer. We're not there to hold up a hierarchy that have bought the club. We're there to make sure that they're looking after our club as custodians, which is their own words. And currently this season, pretty good. So fair play.
It's difficult when it's going well, isn't it? To be really, because what I don't want to do is to end what is a wonderful day, a wonderful period in how the club's coming together, and when we are really starting to see things come together by going like, they should have spent this money, and where's the striker, and can the tea lady play up front, and Kirill Louis-Dreyfus has come from a family that has been embedded in football in Europe for 40 years and the rest. He clearly has had the ability to get Sunderland in with areas of European football that previously I don't think we had access to. You're completely right in what you said, Graham, that they have getting some things very wrong. I think, we don't need to drag up the Black Cat bar and everything like that again, but that was a huge mistake. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you learn from them. And we will only find out if they've learned from these type of really, really big errors. In terms of, if we go back to what we were talking about with Jack Clarke, one of the things we could see about him is that he got it. He got the area. He got what it meant to people. There are times where they haven't getting what it means. And I really don't think they have getting what it means to the people in the area. Or certainly the way they've acted doesn't perceive it that way. Doesn't allow me to perceive it that way. All I can hope, and I am quite hopeful. I think I'm more hopeful than most that they will get it right, that they will be able to learn from the mistakes. But there'll be more things to get wrong. There's always going to be. You can never, this lad, Wilson Aseldor looks, I keep calling him Aseldor, like from Lord of the Rings, man. How do I say it properly?
Isidore?
Isidore. I keep saying it. I keep saying, I was there, Gandalf. I was there 5,000 years ago where Isildur failed to destroy the ring. I was on a roll making serious points. Anyway, he could, I hope he doesn't. I hope he turns out to be absolutely wonderful, but he could turn out to be dross. We could sign Mendy. He could turn out to be terrible. That's part and part of the nature of buying people. You have to put a trust in somebody else to do it. There's a reason we do. There's a reason we don't buy the players. They're supposed to know what they're doing. I've always been of the opinion you have to trust people when they're in positions of business and people in work. Trust them that they're in that position for a reason until they show you otherwise. And they're very much worthy of praise at the moment, I think. And I'm seeing that despite the fee that Jack Clarke's gone for. I do think he should have gone for higher, but I'm guessing there are factors that have gone on behind the scenes, and there's a reason why they've accepted that bid. Probably factors that we'll not find out about. So it's not our business to find out about it, because that's ultimately what they're doing, is they're running a business and they can't put everything out there, every minutiae. Otherwise, it makes their business unrunnable. Doesn't mean that I'm not happy about it. Doesn't mean that I'm happy about everything that's gone on. But at the moment, and when you see that they clearly do have a plan, they did have a plan when they brought Mundle in, with the eye, it seems that Jack Clarke was going to go. I think we all knew Jack Clarke was going to go at some point. Yeah, you've got to give them a bit of praise. You have to give them some praise. Get a couple of strikes. Get these two lads in. What's it called? Rocco Simic and Mendy. I'll be very happy. And I think I would be in that group that owes an apology probably to it's hard for us even to say, to Christian Speakman.
If they do well, but that's the caveat. If they do well, then...
Oh yeah, this is the thing. Is he's judged. He has to be judged by results. It's his job to get the players in. It's his job to get the players moved around that need moving around, and ultimately they'll be judged by results. They've won 3 on the spin, the top of the league. That continues. That's when the apologies come out.
I think where I stand at the moment is, like, during this pre-season, a lot of people said like they have made a lot of mistakes. They've got an opportunity now to fix things moving forward with a management appointment and a transfer window and the start of the season. And at the minute, smashed it. So at the minute, they're in credit. And I'm pleased with that, because I just want someone to benefit. But there's loads of questions in terms of listener questions, which, to be honest, we're kind of covered. And I'm knackered and my throat's going because I roared really loud when we won. So I can't remember when I did this. Was it the Cardiff game? We'll just do it again. One word to sum up today, Ross.
Promising.
Dave?
Ooh la la.
Hyphenated. Mine would be whiskey. Pete?
Comfortable.
Before I go, a couple of people spoke to me in Bar 73 today, which is the first time I've went, and were very kind about the podcast. We don't care if you don't like it. I genuinely couldn't give a fuck. Just unsubscribe.
But we do care if you do like it.
But we do care if you do like it. If you do like it, and then you share a review with me and you tell me things are nice. So thank you very much, Leon, for popping in and saying hello to me for a bit and just enjoying Sunderland winning, because that's what it's all about. Everyone being together, big community, having fun, talking about Sunderland winning games and potentially winning the league by 400 points or something like that. I can't quite remember what we said. It was a couple of Madries deep, but a couple of whiskies deep. But lads, thanks for joining. My throat's going a bit. I don't even know if we're coherent on this one, because I think we've all had a bit to drink. Feels like said the sexist. You've all had a little bit much to drink now. Piss off. But thanks for joining, lads. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Absolute pleasure.
Pleasure as always. Away the lads.